In writing about Emerson, Robert Richardson notes that our attachment to a place grows stronger as subsequent generations are buried in the land we inhabit. Perhaps it is only by death and burial that any people comes to feel a land as their true home, he writes. Home is where your losses are. Emerson formed his philosophy from an observation of nature and the changing American landscape of the 19th century. He also was formed by the many losses in his life: 2 brothers, a wife, a son. Nature included the land that held his dead. Home is where your losses are. Home is where the heart is. Home is where one starts from. Home is the place where, when you have to go there, they have to let you in. Home is fill in the blank. No, really, fill in the blank. Home is where the heart is. Oh, that's mine. You read the newsletter. Or there's no place like home. It's always a good one. What's another one? Where you're comfortable. Where your mom is. Where you grew up. Yes.
Were you married and had children?
Married and had children. Where your church is. Oh, good one. I'll just leave now. I found the perfect Christmas gift for my husband Frank, a framed poster of an antique map of Texas with the words, "Home is wherever I'm with you," graphically imposed over the map. I had it shipped to Dallas, and when it arrived, it was broken. My perfect gift was damaged. The artist was kind enough to replace it immediately. The package had been insured. My perfect gift had been quickly restored to its original condition, a reassuring sign that what is damaged can be repaired. What is broken can be healed. Home is wherever I'm with you could be a slogan for the way Frank and I have lived our married life for more than 4 years now. In our first year away from each other, Frank stayed in the house we had rented after we sold our house in Dallas. I lived in 3 different houses provided by the congregations I served in Idaho and Utah. When I returned to Dallas to get ready to move to California, I contracted with movers to bring my inherited stuff from Houston. I unpacked stuff that had been stored in our garage after the move, and I had a huge garage sale in the heat of August and sold a bunch of stuff. Home is wherever I'm with you is sweet and romantic, but the burden of the logistics of yet another move has led me to conclude that home is where my stuff is. Home right now is where I'm wondering what the 8 unopened boxes in a storage closet could possibly contain. How could I have 8 boxes of stuff I haven't needed for more than 3 years? Home is where I slowly pack, picking up item after item, pausing too long to remember the story behind the stuff, to marvel at how many times a thing has been moved. The desk at which I sit and write my sermons each week started out in Harrington Park, New Jersey, more than 70 years ago, as property of my mother's parents. There is smaller, less weighty stuff to move, but a lot of it is fragile, and I shudder at the prospect of shattered glass in a badly packed box. The glass may shatter, but the stories will remain. Home is where what is damaged can be repaired. What is broken can be healed. For those contending with the memory loss of Alzheimer's and dementia, home is defined by those doing the caregiving, those on the outside prompting the stories, and the recognition of long-standing connections. Jade Angelica, UU minister and founder of Healing Moments Alzheimer's Ministry, tells the story of visiting her mother one afternoon in the nursing home. She writes, "One day I came into her room and she stopped what she was doing. She looked at me, really looked at me. Then she said, 'You, it's you.' It was a moment of pure recognition and belonging, even if she wasn't exactly clear about the relationship between us." Spirit, recognizing spirit, Angelica calls it. Home is where the heart is. Home is wherever I'm with you. Home is not forever. I remember when my paternal grandmother had to leave her home in New York City and move into a retirement home close to where my family lived in a suburb of Chicago. She had lived alone for more than 20 years, but she was starting to forget things like to turn off the stove or what to buy at the store to have a reason to turn the stove on in the first place. She lived comfortably for about 2 years without the severe memory loss that would cause her to live in the assisted living side of the home. By the time we moved her to Houston with us, she did need 24-hour care. I remember visiting her regularly with my father. By then, she didn't know who exactly we were, but like Jade, Angelica's mother, knew there was some connection between us. The last time we visited, she thought we were someone from her past, the time before marriage, a son, grandchildren. I remember my father playing along, saying, "So that's who we are today." Home is where your losses are. I own some of my grandmother's stuff now. Sake cups my father bought in Japan on his way back home after having served in Korea. A beautiful Art Deco lamp that got slightly damaged in the last move. The bedroom furniture from her New York apartment. The object that reminds me the most of my grandmother never belonged to her. My grandmother died when we were on a 4-day vacation in Mexico. This was 40 years ago, before cell phones and email. My father left our neighbor's phone number with the nursing home as an emergency contact. When we returned from our trip, the neighbors came over to our house with the news. I was 15 years old and had a little spending money from babysitting, so while we were in Mexico, I bought a small flower pot as a souvenir. It is incredibly simple, not the typical colorful artesania usually associated with Mexico. White ceramic with a simple yellow flourish around the rim. The flower pot has moved from Houston to Dallas to California and soon back again. I keep it because it holds the story of my grandmother's death and a bit of the story of her life as well. A small reminder that home has multiple meanings. Home is where your losses are. Home is also where my stuff is, because It is the stuff that helps keep my memories alive. I do not know what happens when we die. I am attracted to the idea described by philosophers and theologians as objective immortality. Objective immortality is not the same as subjective immortality. The notion that we live after death in a perfected fashion of the way we lived before death. Objective immortality means that every thought, every action, every way of being we have created while living lives on in a perpetual web of existence, described by some as the mind of God, or by Emerson as the oversoul. We are in the lives we leave behind, not just in children we may create, but in every life we touch during our brief sojourn in this world that we are destined to leave. My grandmother exists in the stories about some sake cups, a lamp, bedroom furniture, and a simple ceramic flower pot. Even as her memories were dissolving back into the perpetual web of existence, I was becoming a repository that would shape her memories for the next generation. Feminist theologian Rosemary Radford Reuther proposes what she thinks happens to us at death. She writes, "Our existence as an individuated organism ceases and dissolves back into the cosmic matrix of matter energy out of which new centers of individuated beings arise. It is this matrix, not the individuated centers of being, which is everlasting, which subsists underneath the coming to be and passing away of individuated beings. Our memories belong to the everlasting web of existence. At death, as individuals, we cease to exist, returning home to all that is." My grandmother was cremated after a private family service led by my parents' priest. We didn't place her remains in land that is our true home. We are like so many others in this mobile society of ours. We have moved far away from the land of our ancestors. I have come to understand home as where my losses are, to mean that home is not forever. The home that holds all my stuff keeps changing. I have ventured outside the dovecote more times than I can remember. The poet Rilke writes, "The doves that remained at home, never exposed to loss, innocent and secure, cannot know tenderness. Only the one back heart can ever be satisfied, free, through all it has given up, to rejoice in its mastery." We leave home for various reasons. We return, altered by our wanderings, altered by what we have given up, heavier by the weight of where we have been, heavier, wiser, grateful for where we have been. Home was supposed to be here with you, the people I love and who love me back. The best we can do for each other now is to remember how our time together will continue to shape who we are. I am a better minister because of you. I am a better person because of you. Home is all those cliches we like to quote about the heart and the place where one starts. The place where when you have to go there, they have to take you in. Home is more than a saying or a place. Home, ultimately, is the center of our beings, what we always carry with us, without the help of movers. Home is a deep sense of trust that life knows where it's going, even when we don't. May it be so, and amen. I will not be here next week. We will have a guest in the pulpit, Jim Scott, who some of you are familiar with, a wonderful musician. So there will be lots of beautiful music next week. So please gather during that time. When I set up the calendar way back in July, of course, I had no idea that this was coming. And I have this plan next weekend, I must confess, to be at a Doctor Who convention. So that's where I will be. I hope you'll be in church. But I will be here on the 22nd, and we will celebrate our ministry together then. We will have one service at 9:15, followed by the celebration. And I hope you will come prepared to share your wishes with me. Oh, well, let's see. I think I'm just going to read this one right now. The kids also made bookmarks, which is good, and then they had help from Justine to write things when they couldn't. The bookmarks, of course, are good for me, so I read a lot. And I will read this one to you now. It's from Griffin, and it simply says, I love you. Let's join now in the words that are printed in your order of service, and we will extinguish our chalice together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We are the Caneo Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Our mission is to nurture spiritually courageous people who transform the world through justice and compassion. Like us on Facebook, check out our website at CVUUF.org, or come visit us. See you soon!